welcome to this video on question 3 on the AQA GCSE English and English language papers for the higher tier. In part 1 of this we looked at what you needed to do in order to get a top band answer on this question. So I gave you the mark scheme and I explained to you what you needed to do in order to get into that top band. Obviously your answer needed to be detailed, as I've explained before. You needed to make perceptive explanations using your inference skills to suggest what the writer felt or thought, and you needed to make sure that you quoted within your answer. So I gave you some tips for this question. I told you that it's always based on source 3, which is a non-fiction extract, tends to be a biography or an autobiography, and that it often relates to a journey, whether that be a physical or emotional journey. It will always ask you about thoughts and feelings, and in order to get into the top marks you need to think about how the writer's thoughts or feelings change throughout the source, and you need to think about why they have changed. It's not a language analysis question, so you don't need to be pulling out your DeForest or Read My Rules techniques unless they directly relate to a thought or feeling of the writer. It's worth 8 marks, which gives you 12 minutes to answer this question in. I gave you a little exercise to do within the other video, and then I explained to you how to structure your response. Each paragraph, each PQE paragraph needs to be point, quote, explain. Your point explaining what emotion, thought or feeling the writer has, the quote from the text itself, and then in your explanation you needed to suggest what the words in the quote suggested about how the writer thought or felt at that particular moment in time. So you needed to use your inference skills to show what the person was feeling. I gave you this extract to take away, which is available as a free download on my website asiaexams.wordpress.com, to go and practice this skill. So the question was, explain some of the thoughts and feelings Joe has when he has his accident on the mountain. And I wanted you to remember to look throughout the extract for the changing thoughts and feelings of Joe. And you needed to comment on at least 4, because we know we need to do 4 PQEs in order to be pushing towards that top band for this question. Now, if you struggle to do that, there is a sample mark scheme for this answer on my website, asiaexams.wordpress.com. You can get that for free too. So have a look at the kind of answers that you could use within your whole answer. Each one of these could be a PQE paragraph within your answer. And remember, you only need 4 of these, 5 if you've got time within the 12 minutes. And this is the top band sample answer that is available on my website too. I've written this, I didn't write it to time, so bear in mind this is the top notch, this is what I could do if I had all the time in the world. But things you need to think about when you're reading through this top band sample answer is that there are 4 well-structured PQE paragraphs, okay? I open the answer commenting on how Joe's feelings change throughout the extract. Okay, so I do comment on his changing thoughts and feelings. And if this was handwritten, it would be about 1.5 sides, which is what you're looking for in the exam. So if we have a look at this in further detail, you can get this for free. You can print this off yourself and have a look at it in your own time. But what we'll have a look at is we'll just have a look at the structure of the first couple of PQE paragraphs so that you can get the gist of how to structure your answer. So a really good way to start your answer is to open it with an opening statement that comments on that the person's feelings change. Now 9 times out of 10 that will be the case. So if the thoughts and feelings have changed, you need to comment on the fact that they do and then consider why they have changed. So here I've put Joe feels a range of emotions across the entire extract which mirror the ever-changing mindset and situation he is in. So I've thought about why would his thoughts and feelings change, and the situation he is in is ever changing because obviously he is in a deadly situation. And also the realisation that he could die on that mountain begins to sink in as we move further through the extract. So that is why his thoughts and feelings change. So that's a good way to open your answer. Now, if you see, I've colour-coded this answer as well, just to show you how I've structured it. So any purple points show the examiner that you've structured your answer and that you've taken quotes from various points within the extract. The point is in blue, so I'm answering the question with the thought, feeling or emotion. The quote is in green. All of the pink bits are my inference and suggestions, and they are the perceptive comments. They're the really important parts that you need to include in order to move up to that top band. And any comment on changing thoughts and feelings I've left in black, and you'll see that there are a couple of PQE paragraphs where I've made it clear to the examiner that his thoughts and feelings have changed. So let's have a look at this first one. So I say, at the beginning of the extract, Joe feels a sense of confusion and shock at what has happened on the mountain. So I've answered the question, what are his thoughts and feelings? Confusion and shock. When describing the fall off the cliff, Joe says it happened before I saw it coming, and that the speed of the accident confused him. So I've embedded my quotes within my sentence there, which is a more sophisticated skill. And those quotes directly back up the emotions that I've talked about. The fact that it all happened before he saw it coming, so he would be shocked. And he uses the word confused, which shows that he is suffering from a sense of confusion. So then I've looked at the words in that quote and I've thought about what they infer or suggest. So I've said this suggests that the accident unfolded in a split second and that he did not have a chance to save himself. Okay, so that links to the before I saw it coming quote. It also suggests that he is an experienced climber who very rarely falls. Now I thought, obviously, if it's confused him, he's not been in this situation before perhaps. So I thought, well, he must be an experienced climber and perhaps he very rarely falls. So again, that's a perceptive comment. Falling off the cliff is confusing to him because he has not been faced with such a dangerous situation before. So I've used my inference skills to think about what those words tell us about the character of Joe. Okay, and that is a well-structured PQE paragraph. Next one I've gone on, as Joe realises what has happened, the overriding feelings he has are of loyalty and friendship. So again, I've answered the question. Loyalty and friendship are the emotions and the thoughts and feelings that he's having as the extract moves on. He knows that he has not only put himself in a deadly situation, sorry about the whizzing screen, but that his friend Simon would be ripped off the mountain too. So again, I've embedded my quote and then I've thought about what that tells us about Joe. The suggestion is that despite the pain and terror Joe feels inside, his immediate thoughts are for his friend Simon and whether he would survive the ordeal. So I've thought about, why would he be worried about Simon at that point? Obviously, he's concerned for his friend. And does that mean that Joe's feelings are being pushed aside? So again, I've used my inference skills. So you see that I'm doing that in every single paragraph. Now the next one's particularly important because it tells the examiner that I've read further down into the extract. So I've put later in the extract, Joe demonstrates a determination to survive. So thought or feeling is survival. Although he hangs his head down as if the situation is hopeless, he still kicked his leg into the cliff in an attempt to save himself. So I've only actually used a couple of words from the extract there in my sentence as embedded quotes. Again, that's a sophisticated skill. This is where I've made a comment on the change in emotions, okay? And I've said this constant changing of emotions is evident throughout the extract and could be linked to the panic he feels. So I've thought about, well, he hangs his head as though it's hopeless. However, he still tries to survive. So I've commented on his changing emotions there and thought about why they would be changing. Indeed, it is suggested that as a seasoned climber, he understands the severity of the situation he is in, but also that his experience will not allow him to give up on survival. So again, I've thought about what it suggests about him as a person, okay? That he knows and understands that he's in a very, very dangerous situation. However, that experience also is almost forcing him to be determined to survive. So I've commented on the change, but I've also inferred or suggested what it shows about him as a person from the words in those quotes. Okay? So if you want to take a look at this answer in further detail, I would strongly advise you head over to asiaexams.wordpress.com. Have a look at each one of these PQE paragraphs in detail and think about how does it fit the structure that I gave you in the last video with the PQE. And, you know, think about why does it deserve 7 to 8 marks in Band 4, okay? Have a go at the answer yourself and then perhaps compare your answer to this one and see what you can do to improve your answer. If you've got any questions about this video or any of the other videos in the series, then please do email me on my website, or you can tweet me at AQA. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions. Thanks for listening. Make sure you subscribe to my channel and follow me on Twitter. Thank you. Bye bye.